Hey guys, my name is Mavi and I've spent the last 14 years in the plastic surgery and beauty industry, working alongside top board certified plastic surgeons.
Now I'm an independent patient coordinator who doesn't work for any surgeon. This means I have unbiased reviews for hundreds of doctors and I can help you achieve the look of your dreams, whether that's a supernatural or a video vixen. I use my professional and personal plastic surgery experience to help you look and feel your best.
Join in on the fun as I talk to plastic surgery experts, friends, and real life patients about all things plastic surgery. Should be fun.
Hey guys, do I have the show for you today? I am super excited to have a very special guest that you will really enjoy hearing from and getting to know from the Hive. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, it's me.
I'm so excited to have you on. I know this is going to be such a fun episode. If you guys have not followed the Hive on Facebook, it's a plastic surgery community where you can go, and I don't want to say it's mainly for breast augmentation, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and then they'll know.
Okay, so I started as a breast augmentation expert. So I really helped educate women on their options, whether that's what type of implants, what are the profiles like, what is it going to look like in your body, what's recovery like, all of that stuff. So I started there, and then I built a brand called Bust Mob, which was great. It's an online community. And then after that, I've started a new community called The Hive. And so The Hive was really born from a place of I want to incorporate plastic surgery education, but also like the wellness side of it as well. Because a lot of times people will get like a breast augmentation or a tummy tuck or a mommy makeover, and they feel so good that they want to go on and improve like other areas of their life, whether it's nutrition, to get back into working out, but like hardcore. And on the flip side of that, some people work on their inner work, inner, outer. And so when that inner wellness is to that place where they're like, man, I feel really good on the inside, I want to do something more, then they also have that drive to like, well, what can I do on the outside to make me feel like I do on the inside? So it's kind of like this synergistic, they both kind of work together. And I want to just kind of add fire to that and encourage more people to either do the wellness journey, or if they're in the wellness journey and they want to do something different, then encourage them with plastic surgery if that's right for them.
I love that. You know, part of my whole journey has been how after my surgery, my mommy makeover back in 2017, I call it an awakening. Like I went through a transformation on the outside and I started to do personal development and figure out like different things about myself on the inside. And I say that my mommy makeover like is what kickstarted it. It's what like really lit that flame of coming back to myself after losing myself to being a mom. When I had my kids, I lost myself in motherhood. And my surgery kind of reignited that, like, oh, I'm not just Mavi the mom. I'm also like Mavi, this other person that is interested in other things and not just watching Caillou and all of the things my
Yeah.
daughter was into. So
I
I
was in the
love that.
Caillou boat too, so I feel you.
So I love that synergistic approach of feeling better about yourself on the inside and on the outside. So today, the topic that we're going to be talking about is breast implants. And Jenny, I want you to give us your spiel. Give us your like, okay, you're thinking about implants. Give me your spiel.
All right. Well, spiel, I usually start with let's make sure that breast implants are for you, because I like to know the why behind someone wants to get implants. Because if the why is, well, it might advance my career, or my husband really wants me to do this, I don't care, or I really don't want to do it, like things like that. Like, hey, let's start there. Like, do you want implants for you, or are you trying to do it for some other external factor? Because you're not going to be happy if it's for the external. If it's for the internal, then yes, let's move forward. So I like to start there. And that's addressing the inside before the outside as well. And then moving from there, it's like, okay, well, what do you want to see in the mirror? Like, what are your goals? Show me what you like. Show me what you don't like. Because I know we were talking earlier, kind of like off script, about like somebody who shows two different pictures, right? Like something really small and really big, and they're like, I like this. And it's like, okay, but what do you like about that? Like it's really trying to get them to understand, is it the roundness? Is it the natural? Is it the projection? Is it the width? So it's like really getting them to not just see the image, but really go a little bit further and like dissect it. Like, what do you like about this image? And I think a lot of people skip that step and they just go to their consultation and they toss some photos up and they're like, wait a minute, that and that are way two different looks. And a lot of people fall into that because we don't know. And so like having somebody like us being able to say, okay, let's find the look you like and the look you don't like. So then maybe you're like, okay, now we have an idea. You don't like the wide look. You want more narrow breasts, X, Y, and Z. So really getting them to see what they like instead of trying to describe it. Because again, like describing what you like, a surgeon can run with that in a million different directions. So let's not do that. Pictures are great. And then after that, like going into your consultation, like finding a surgeon that's right for you. You don't have to go to the person down the street anymore. You can go across the country. I mean, I don't want to say thanks to 2020, but because 2020, yeah, COVID existed, virtual appointments have become like the thing. And I think that really helped the plastic surgery industry too, because now you can like have consults with surgeons across the country without leaving your home to get an idea of who you vibe with best, whose after photos you like. And not just after photos, but who do you connect with? Who do you feel like if you have a problem, you feel comfortable coming back to them and telling them, hey, I'm not comfortable with it. Just, I don't like my results. Something's not right. Because if you don't have that connection, you're not going to want to bother that surgeon. And I think a lot of women fall into that trap too. It's like, well, I don't want to bother them. I'm like, well, that's their job. And you just paid them a lot of money. Like, they're your client. So that's kind of like where I start. And then towards the middle of it, it all encompasses community as well, because you don't want to do this alone. Granted, some people might, but mostly women like community. We like to experience things together. And the best way to do that in today's world is on the internet. And so with groups like Facebook groups or forums, or there's so many things out there other than the Hive. It's just a great way to connect with other women with like-minded wants and goals so that you don't feel alone in the process.
Absolutely. And one of those things that I feel causes a lot of division and also confusion is women trying to decide between saline or silicone implants or what brand of implant to get. So I think I just read recently that you got your saline implants put in. You got your silicone taken out and you got your saline put in. So tell me about that.
I know it's a popular opinion. People love saline. Not really. So for me, I had saline implants in 2010, 2016 at an exchange because I had my daughter, so things had to be fixed, breastfeeding and all. And then I switched to Sientra 107 in 2020, which were silicone implants. And the 107s are great to me. Like I still believe Sientra 107s are awesome implants. But for me, I didn't quite feel like it was right for me. And I have it right here. Let me show you. Look at this puppy. Okay. This is one implant. I had two of these guys inside of me.
What size is that? That looks like a 600.
650.
I knew it.
Yeah. So these puppies, when they handed them to me, I was like, no way. But because I hadn't sterilized and they gave them back to me. But they they're great. Like I see why people like silicone. They feel more like breast tissue. When I do a lot of yoga, I'm a yoga teacher. So if I lay on my chest, I could squish them, like they would squish. Salines don't squish. It's like laying on two grapefruits. So yeah, Jenny, let's get salines again. But here's why I switched back to saline. The silicones just didn't feel like me. First of all, like I've always felt like a crunchy girl, natural girl, and I hear crunchy means something different now thanks to the young kids. So I don't know if I can say crunchy anymore. So we'll look that one up later. but a very granola natural person. So saline to me felt like, well, I liked the idea. If there was a rupture, I would know immediately. That to me was my first line of care. Most people, their first line of care is what does it feel like? Because they want it to feel like breast tissue. Totally okay, totally normal. I don't care what they feel like. I care what they look like, and I care if they rupture. I like a firm look. I'm realizing that. I got the silicones, it gave me the look that I was thinking it would give me. I got capsular contracture with them, probably totally unrelated. I had a lot of stress during that time of my life, which I contribute to my Capcom. And so I had some deformed just breast tissue, a lot of scar tissue. So I went in and saw Dr. Hunter at Amelia, and he fixed it, corrected it, and we switched to saline because it feels more like me. And I went down a little bit. I mean, okay, so this is a 650 shell. I went down to a 510 shell saline and still overfilled it to 650. So the fill size is the same, but it's still a little bit more like compact, and it's a moderate mod plus, so it's less projecting. Because I'm small and I was feeling like you saw my boobs before me coming around a corner. So I really just wanted to feel more like a mom. I'm going to be 40 this year, so I wanted to kind of, I don't know, have the implants that I want to like ride out for a while. So saline is what felt right for me.
I love it. I with this industry, when I first got into it, it was all saline. All we were doing was saline implants. It was during the moratorium when we did not have any silicone implants in the market other than breast reconstruction. And that was like, let me think. What year was that? Maybe like 2010, 2008, 2009, 2010. We were all saline. And then slowly it started to shift once they lifted the moratorium. We had silicone implants back in the market. And after that, it kind of went all into silicone. Almost every single surgeon that I interact with or have had on the show, they're doing silicone implants. They're not really doing saline unless a patient is like requesting it, wants it no matter what. Um, and there's different reasons, right? They're like, oh, if you get a saline implant, it could rupture overnight and you could wake up with a flat side. That was one of the main things that they would bring up. With the silicone, it's if it does rupture, it's not an emergency. You have to have surgery like in the next 2 weeks because you're lopsided. So that was one of the things that I would constantly hear during these consultations. And slowly, like everybody got silicone implants. And I read in your post about switching over that you felt a little pressured into silicone when you decided to go with silicone versus going back in with saline.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that was partly my fault. I was working at Amelia and we had just switched to Sientra implants. And of course, when you get all these new implants, you're just like playing with them all day. I know you're just so excited. So I'm like playing with this 107 for way too long. And we were starting to form like kind of like a corporate partnership a little bit. We're trying to, anyways, with Sientra at the time before they went under. And but now they're back. But before they went under, so I got the Sientra 107s in hope to like kind of boost the awareness of Sientra implants because they were really great. I've never had silicone and I was curious. And I got them not so much as a marketing move, a little bit, but also my curiosity just kind of ran me in one direction. So I was like, well, heck yeah, let's do it. And so I did, and I liked them. This is the 107. Yeah, they're just super great. And they did get picked up by Establishment Labs. Nope, Tiger. Was it Tiger Labs? Sientra just got picked up by, I think it's Tiger, because I thought that was kind of cute.
So now with your saline implants, what brand do you have?
That is a great question because they only did Mentor. It was Mentor. Yeah, because I started with Mentor, then I had Allergan, then I had Sientra, and now I'm back to Mentor.
So if you're listening and you're like, what are they saying? What are they talking about? So it's the different brands of the implants. Each company, so we have Allergan, who has their brand. We have Sientra. We have Mentor. Now we have Motiva. Motiva is like the new kid on the block, coming in with different technology of their silicone. And I haven't had one of their reps on the show yet, but it's in the works because I have seen a lot of really great. I've heard and seen great feedback from the surgeons who are using them simply because the silicone is a little different. So we talk about if you're this is another kind of one of those things that gets confusing when people are looking for gummy bear implants or they only want gummy bear implants. And what is the gummy bear implant? What is that? What does it even mean? So the usually when somebody is talking about a gummy bear implant, it's a silicone highly cohesive gel implant. Most of the silicone implants that are out on the market are cohesive unless you're going with a um well, actually all of them except maybe the ones that are more in the reconstructive. I think most of them are highly cohesive. And what does that mean is like when you cut it, you cut the implant before, during the moratorium that I was just talking about, before those implants, when you would cut them, the silicone was like syrup. It was like a sticky syrup. Now, when you cut an implant, it's like cutting jello. Like you can squeeze it and it'll come out of the shell and then you release and it goes right back in. So if they rupture, it's not like a syrup that's coming out into the capsule. It's just a kind all contained within the capsule that your body forms around your implant. So that's a little background on all of these different terminologies and different things that are on the market that sometimes cause confusion because they're like, I want gummy bear implants. And it's like, well, most of them are gummy bear. You're going to get that. If you're choosing, you're going to get what you call the gummy bear implant. I think before, maybe like 5 or 6, maybe 10 years ago. Yeah, maybe like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Time
about
goes
10 years
fast.
ago.
It was more of a marketing term where people were like really looking for these gummy bear implants, but now it's kind of more known that if you're getting silicone, they're that cohesive type of jello implant, which is what I have. Mine are um, silicone, Allergan silicone. I have a small implant that I might be switching out soon. I had one of my girls have surgery recently, and she got beautiful like 400s, and I was like, "Ah, I am jealous. I want mine to look like that."
I need those.
I need those. So that leads me into my next topic that I want us to talk about, which is what we were talking about off air, copy paste.
Oh, yeah. So I dropped the question in the Hive and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be doing this podcast, Big Butts No Lies. If you have questions or have like any suggestions on myths, please drop them. And this one girl was like, let's talk about how we can't copy paste body parts. And I was like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. So like when I look at something that I like, let's say for me, I like looking at BBLs. It's probably not in the books for me because I have no fat to put there. So here's a perfect example. I I will look at these BBL results on Pinterest all the time, and I'm just like, oh my god, save, 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 save. And but realistically, I need to pull back and be like, Jenny, first of all, your butt looks nothing like that like she didn't start where you have to start. You don't have enough fat to even put where you want it to go unless you wanted to gain 25 pounds, 30 pounds, which I think is also not a great idea. So then I'm like, well, if I could copy paste, yeah, that would be great. So when it comes to like breast implant, we can see models that we like I don't know, the Jenner or whatever what are those girls' names? The Kardashians. So I never watched that show. So, anyways, but them. Like they all have a very specific look and looks great on them. Me, and probably I don't think I have the face for it. I don't have the hips for it. I don't, as much as I would love to be, I don't know, 6'1" with small implants and super narrow with a big butt. It's just not for me. I'm a 5'4" girl. I'm 115 pounds at best. And so like my options are limited. So it's having the realistic expectations of what's possible for your body because not everything is. Some people might want thinner thighs, but it's all muscle. Like there's no liposuction you can do for your thighs when you just have muscular thighs. That's a good thing, like so it's kind of being able to pull back, have a conversation with their surgeon and have the ears to hear like, hey, this might not get you to your goals because you just don't have the anatomy that will work for it. And so having that kind of filter going in was really helpful, especially for me when I think I want to go in with like 3 ideas and they're like, wait, no. And I'm like, okay.
For me, what I think of copy and paste when it comes to realistic expectations is it's something you just touched on of like I'll have girls show me pictures of a tummy tuck or a BBL and I'm like that girl probably hasn't even had surgery. That looks like a working out butt. It doesn't look like a BBL butt. And there's a difference, y'all. Like there's a difference between a BBL butt and a working out butt. The working out butt, you can tell like this person is pretty toned throughout, not just in her butt. The BBL butt, you can tell like there's fat and it's not just muscle in that booty. When it comes to breast, it's so easy to be like I want my breast to look like this or like this, and there's so many different factors that you have to consider. For example, do you need a lift? Are you somebody who isn't just volume loss and it's more you have had your breast is more saggy than what the volume loss that you have? And then you have to consider how wide this person is, how wide their shoulders are, how wide their chest is. Something that I always hear is like, I don't want a lot of space in between my breasts. And it's one of those things that it's like, if you already have that before surgery, and the surgeon's going to try to fix it as much as they can, but it's sometimes your sternum is your sternum. They can't yeah, you can't make it smaller. Like it's there. And it's what is the middle is of your breasts. So sometimes I have to tell my girls, like, if you don't have a very wide sternum to begin with, that's not even something that should be on your radar as far as like something that you're worried about. If you do have that wider sternum and you do have a more of a separation between your breasts, then bring that up to your surgeon and mention it to them. Like, this is something that really bothers me. They can sometimes do fat grafting, they can do different size implants to help bring them closer. But if you have a wide sternum, you can't show a before and after of somebody who has a tiny little nothing in between their breast and expect for your result to look the same because you're not starting at the same place.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same way with areola reductions. I see those and I'm like, well, they're like, oh, well, like this girl's areolas because they're so small. And I'm like, well, she probably started out with not a whole lot of breast tissue because typically when you don't have breast tissue, your nipples are small, your areolas are small. So, but if you started out like I did with double D's, got a reduction, and then you just keep going, it's like, well, those areolas only have so small to go because there's like certain set sizes during surgery that they cut. I'm never going to have these teeny tiny ones that some of these girls do. As much as I love them and I think they're beautiful, it's just not my anatomy and I will never have those. And it's okay.
And it's okay. And I think that's, we can touch on something that I was invited to for a panel at an event that's called the Self-Love Event. And one of the topics or one of the questions that I'm going to be answering on this panel is, what does loving yourself look like to you and in what you do? And I think that's really important for us to talk about embracing our differences, embracing what we have that's maybe, for example, the size of our nipples or our areolas or the color or the our hip dips and different things that we can try to fix them as much as as much as the surgeon can. They're they are skilled and really talented, but they're not magicians. Like they can't, like there's not a magic wand that they can just use and make it perfect. So I feel like really embracing our differences, what makes your body unique, is really important when you're looking into plastic surgery. And I feel like that kind of brings us back to the whole wellness and transformation, not just on the outside, but on the inside too. Because there's this myth of, oh, well, if you're having plastic surgery, you don't love yourself or you don't love who you are. And I feel like that's the furthest from the truth because tell me if you have not experienced this yourself or seen women go through it a lot, like with surgery, of you have to like really, really invest in yourself. And that can sometimes be a huge hurdle for women to be like, I'm going to spend this money on me instead of a new kitchen or a new car, or instead of getting taking my kids on a Disney vacation, like jumping the hurdle of saying it's okay for me to spend this money on myself. Like that is the a really big act of self-love, I feel. Right.
No, I agree because I feel like as mothers, we think anything we get that's good, we need to give and spread around. But it kind of goes back to there's a Schitt's Creek episode, and Moira was like, if air flight has taught me anything, it's to put my own mask on first before assisting you to her son. And I was like, well, that's a bit of a stretch, but it's very true. Like, the more I take care of myself and the more I pour into myself and the more I invest in myself, whether it's financially or physically or emotionally, whatever, that's going to bleed out into all other areas of my life. Like if I'm happy, my daughter's going to be happy. If I come home stressed and annoyed, she's going to be stressed and annoyed because you just feed energy. And it's one of those things that I know it's hard to spend a chunk of money on yourself, especially as a mom, especially as a woman, I think for some people, especially those that are married. That's a whole nother conversation of let me spend the money. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. But yeah, it's to me, it shows that they're brave, that they're standing up for themselves, that they're making a hard choice to have surgery to do something for themselves that they can't otherwise do. And I think that's very humble. And I think people think that aren't in this world, that it's superficial. If they just walk in with all this money, they're not thinking about it. No, it's a scary thing. And I just wish people had more behind the scenes as to what a woman thinks when they're going through this because it's scary and they're still doing it and they're being brave. And it's just something to honor rather than to be rude about.
Oh, 100%. You touched on something that I feel is important for us to talk about, which is I saw recently that one of the determining factors of how happy a kid's childhood is depends on how happy of a mother they have. And I can't not correlate me being unhappy with how clothes looked on me and looking at myself in the mirror and not being excited about leaving the house because I didn't like the way my clothes looked or how I looked in my outfit because I knew I could look better. I've seen my girls at work. I was a patient coordinator for a long time before I had my own surgery, so I knew I could look better. This dress would look better on me after my surgery. And how that sometimes, and I've heard it myself from different women who I've worked with, different patients who tell me things like, um, now I don't hide behind my kids in our Christmas card. Now I'm taking more pictures with my kids, where before I was always behind the camera. Now I'm in front of the camera with them. Or now my daughter watches me get dressed and she enjoys watching how I try different things on. And now she's enjoying dressing herself. And I feel like those are things that you don't know unless you're living them you, in your life. And for anybody who's listening, who's thinking about having surgery, and you're like, I don't want to be selfish, I don't want to spend money on myself. Really, when you're spending money on yourself, you're investing in your own happiness. And from you having a full cup, you can pour into your children's cup, into your husband's cup. Because let me tell y'all, those husbands might talk a lot of crap before surgery, but they sure do enjoy it after.
That's true. Don't let them fool you for a second.
That's true. So, with that, I feel like it's really important to embrace our uniqueness, like embrace the differences that we have, but also allow yourself to, it's okay to have surgery. It's okay to get something fixed that bothers you. And it's also okay to be realistic with what we expect from surgery. What's not okay is to have this high expectation of perfection of you, of your surgeon, of the result. That is what's gonna, I say, you're setting yourself up for disaster. If your expectations are super high, for example, I saw something online of, oh, well, it was on Reddit. I paid this much money for my surgery, and I went with the most expensive surgeon because I thought that he would have the best technology so that I wouldn't have to deal with scars. And I'm like, you're going to have a scar no matter who cuts you, no matter if it's the surgeon that charges you 5,000 or the surgeon that charges you 125,000. You're still going to get a scar no matter what.
It's true. It made me think of people who get a tummy tuck. Like the expectation in their mind, if they haven't talked about it ahead of time, is that they're not going to have a crease. They're just going to be straight all the time, like no matter how they move. And I'm like, well, no, you still need to bend. Like, and they're like, but if I bend, I have a crease. And I'm like, wait, your skin still needs to be able to bend so you can bend. So I think, like, even something as little as that, they have this idea of a tummy tuck, like you're just going to be flat all the time. Well, no, you still got to bend and move. So you got to have some give. And I think that was something that has been missed, I think, in some consultations, just kind of laying out the expectations of what recovery is going to look like. And yes, you will need to crease because you got to bend. And that's kind of like with a breast dog. Like you see them after 2 days and you're like, ah, like if somebody didn't tell you in advance, like you're going to think something's wrong. Yes, like they're in my collarbones. This isn't right. But for some people, it starts there, and recovery is a process. It's a long game for some procedures. Like if it's liposuction, that's a long game. Mommy makeover, a long game. Not so much for a breast dog, but there are expectations that you're not going to see immediate results. It can take a long time. There's swelling. There's trauma done to the body. There's all kinds of things. Your muscles are squeezing it. Your tummy is tight. Like there's just all these things we don't think about beforehand because we want to see that end goal, but it's like, man, give yourself that time you got to get there. So it's the process and slow down. But I think that's where consultations are really important and what they communicate to their patients as well is like, let's make sure they understand what recovery looks like because there's nothing scarier than being on the other side of that and being like, what the, you know?
Exactly. You know what? So let's do this. I'm going to say two questions that I feel any woman who's having a breast surgery should ask. And then you say two questions that you feel like any woman who's having a breast surgery should have. So my first question for if I'm having a consultation for a breast augmentation would be, do I just need an implant or do I need a lift as well? Do I need a lift and then an implant? Am I the right candidate for an augmentation only? And the reason why is because as we've seen the rise of cosmetic surgeons go up, the amount of times that I see somebody who just got implants when they really needed a lift to along with those implants is going up. So one of those questions that I feel you should ask is, am I a candidate for a breast augmentation only, or do I need a lift? That would be my first question. And then my second question would be, what plane are you planning to put my implant in? Will this be a submuscular, like under the muscle? Is it going to be dual plane where it's halfway underneath the muscle, halfway under the tissue, or is it completely over the muscle where it's just under the breast tissue, or subfascial? Those are my two questions that you can't walk out of your consultation without asking.
I like that. So let me think. Two questions. If I can only have two. I think the first one would be, are you board certified? I would like to know that because for some, you can be a cosmetic surgeon, not a plastic surgeon. And to be a cosmetic surgeon, let's say you're a dermatologist, you can do a weekend course, learn how to do a breast dog, and boom, you can do breast dogs. So maybe check that they're a board certified plastic surgeon because that means they've gone through all the training for a long time. It's insane. I would never be a plastic surgeon. Like, good guys, like good job for y'all. But I would ask that. And I like what you said about the lift and the aug. That's important because if you miss that, you're missing your goals completely. And I think another one, what I hear a lot from patients before was profiles. Everyone gets so wrapped up in profiles, and it's because, yes, and we see so many women with high profile, high profile, high profile. But lately, we've been seeing a lot of low profiles and low plus, which is the very end of the bookend, right? So it's like the lower, flatter, wider ones versus this narrow, bulbous ones. And so I'm just like, wow, these are very two different looks. This is probably something we should talk about during the consultation. Like, show them what you like because that's going to really help them determine which profile is best for you. Because if you show them a photo where it's less projecting but wider, you get that nice side boob, that's probably going to be more of a mod plus to moderate for you, depending on your anatomy. If you want those like bolted on, rounder look, more augmented, more forward projecting, a high profile is probably better for you. So like you don't want to get those mixed up. So, those are very two different looks. So getting to a lot of times at consults, they'll show you different profiles too. Then you can feel them and get an idea for them. They'll measure your breast width sometimes. They might do a Vectra, which is 3D imaging that can like automatically map out all of your numbers. And it can spit out like what best would be like a profiles for your breast footprint. That's a new one. I like that, breast footprint. Um, yeah, I do too. It's like a really nice visual because we all have a different footprint. Oh, hold on. Malfunction. And we're back. So yeah, definitely profile. And are you a board certified plastic surgeon? And if I could throw a third one out, it would be like, what are your post-op follow-ups look like? Because if you're an out-of-town patient, you might need to know that. Or if you're a virtual patient, you might want to know, well, can some of these be done virtually? Do I need to come back? Because that's an extra expense too. So I like to keep costs in the back of my mind too.
Absolutely. Those are great questions. The are you board certified? Girl, you should be asking that, finding that out before you even make that consultation. You should already know if they are, if they're not. And
Chat GPT it.
yeah, you need to know for sure before you walk through that office of who this surgeon that you're going to meet is. I think that's one of the things that a lot of women who are looking for plastic surgery, they look at before and after pictures, but once they are, Some are before and after pictures. That's all I care about. Like, you could be whoever you want to be. Just give me the results that are on your Instagram. And then you have the other side of like, I want to know everything about you before I sign, before I put my name on on that consent, and before I lay on your table. I need to know everything, even your mom's name. And I think I'm probably a little in the middle. Like, I want to know everything. I want to make sure that you are a board certified plastic surgeon. I want to know about your history. I want to know about your training. I want to know if you're going to the meetings frequently or are you not going to the meetings. I want to know how up to date you are with techniques, with new technologies. Those are the things that I would want to know.
And I love when surgeons show like what their techniques are because it can be totally behind the scenes and they don't have to share that stuff. Because I know like Dr. Calabrese in Lexington, Kentucky, he is known for like being so innovative in his approach surgically that he pulls people in across the country, surgeons, and shows them new techniques. And I just think that that speaks volumes to him as a surgeon, and being able to share what you're learning with others is so important. And so what you said, like going to the meetings, learning new surgical techniques, being open about like, what are you doing? Do you use drains? Do you not use drains? Is it a secret? Why is it a secret? So like just kind of like being as like the more open and transparent a practice is, the more trust that they're going to be giving me as a patient.
Absolutely. I think another thing is, um, you touched on it. If they're training other people, other surgeons, that's a green flag to me. That's okay. So or if they're traveling to train with other surgeons, that's a green flag to me too, because it take, you know, there's a lot of ego in plastic surgery, in surgeons in general. There's a lot of ego. So a surgeon that's willing to train others and who's willing to be trained by somebody else, I feel that speaks a lot about their personality and how they would be at the bedside as you're when they're taking care of you, how their personality would be during your care.
Hmm. I agree with that.
So before we go, right, we already went over our time, but before we go, let's do some myth busting. So my first myth is you have to change your implants every 10 years.
That's my buzzer sound. Um, I, in my world, I've heard if it's not broke, don't fix it. So if you don't need to have a surgery, don't have a surgery because the risks of getting a surgery kind of outweigh just changing the implants because your complication rate goes up, not because you're changing implants, but because you're having another surgery. So if there's nothing wrong, leave it. If you're worried, excuse me, if you're worried, then you can go have a breast MRI. And a lot of times, if you pay out of pocket for a breast MRI, it's way cheaper than even going through the insurance company. I did that not that long ago up at Raleigh Radiology, and cash prices, I think it was like $500 for a breast MRI. And I'm like, if I save this for like 3 years, like, yeah, I can do this every 3 years for $500. Um, if you start feeling like a capsular contracture, if you get hardening of the breast, if you start feeling symptoms like that, then you might have a small rupture that could be capsular contracture. So it's maybe reevaluate it for yourself. Do you feel comfortable? Is this going to be something in the back of your mind that's going to drive you crazy because you hit that 10 month or mark? Then you probably should get them changed out because then you're just stressing yourself out, and stress can cause a number of health problems as well. So you might need to change them out. But if you're one of those people that are like, everything's fine, I don't need surgery, then don't.
I agree with that. I think there is a lot of like, you have to switch it out. But if your implants are doing fine, if they're not bothering you, I've seen women come in to get their implants changed out after 30 years and the implants perfectly fine. And it's just because they want to go smaller or they want to go bigger. It depends. So sometimes they'll take that implant out and it's perfectly intact. Nothing's wrong with it. No rupture. Everything's fine. So I agree with that. If it's not bothering you, leave it alone. Don't bother it. They're also doing um, plastic surgeons who are putting implants in are starting to offer checkups with breast ultrasound checkups. I saw one of my favorite doctors here in Houston. She's offering it, Dr. Christy Hustak, breast ultrasound checkups on the implants after I think like a year or 3 year checkups. And she's offering it for free to her own patients who she's done augmentations to. So talk to your surgeon. That's the other thing I think is really important, that for you to know when you're looking for surgery is when you're picking your surgeon, make sure it's somebody that you can talk to, that you feel like I can tell him or her something and they're going to listen and not brush me off and not pay attention, but actually address what my question is. Because, for example, if you start feeling like your breast implant is starting to hurt or it's bothering you, immediately call your surgeon because there's things that they can give you, medication, to help prevent a capsular contracture if you catch it right at the beginning, right when it's starting. So that open communication with your surgeon is so important. It's crucial. You have to have a good relationship because you could even message their office, hey, I'm feeling my implant is hurting or it's starting to feel hard or whatever the case may be. And they'll make you an appointment. You come in, and usually it's no charge because you're one of their patients. This is one of their procedures that they did on you. They'll take care of it. If it's a prescription that they have to give you, they'll give it to you. If it's actually capsular contracture where you have to have surgery, there's different warranties that you get with your implants that your surgeon would go over with you, or their coordinator will go over with you. So if you do have to go down that path, don't think you have to go look for a different surgeon, although you can, but make sure you save your implant card. Do not throw your implant card away. Take a picture of it, email it to yourself, put it in the safe, put it somewhere where you never lose it. But if you have your implant card, you can go to a different surgeon and they can still access your warranty information. But if you go to your same surgeon because you have this great relationship, they'll be able to look through your record and have your medical record and have the information already at their disposal if they do have to go down that path of removal and replacement. The next myth.
Ooh, I wrote down a Vectra. Like, will my Vectra image look like my real result?
That's a good one.
And it's a no. uh, I've seen so many Vectras, and they're like, oh my God, am I going to look like this? And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, I wish people would stop showing the front image of a Vectra. There is no benefit, in my opinion, to show someone the front. The side, sure, you get to see the projection, the roundness. Like for somebody who's starting with nothing, they have a hard time visualizing it. So switch it to that lateral view, see the side projection. Like that is exciting. When you switch it to that front view, it's everything is like, because you're like this. So your boobs are naturally like and then they go out like that. And I'm like, you're not going to look like that. And so a lot of people get hung up on their Vectras and they'll be posting it in groups like, am I going to look like this? Oh my God. And then someone will come back and have like a before, like, here's my Vectra, here's my after. And I'm like, thank God people are doing this because it brings a lot of peace of mind to them. Like, don't get freaked out. Like, the Vectra's supposed to be fun. Like, like, don't scare them with the front photo. Let's just start from the side photo. So people who have that Vectra and they immediately think, oh my God, that's what I'm going to look like. You're not going to look like that. It's just a great tool to see like what your measurements are, what different profiles can look, what different volumes can look from this side. Cause you can like, it's so cool to see like your breasts go whoop, or like whiter or not. I don't know. It's really fun. But if you see that front image, I'm sorry. You won't look like that. It's just a tool.
One of the things that I think we should touch on is did you ever try on implants with patients?
Oh, the sizers. I'm trying to think. No, I didn't. The patient care coordinators did. We had some sizers. We also had some of the Sientra um, silicone ones, but we mostly used Vectra. We would play with them if they wanted to, but Vectra was just kind of like our streamlined process back then. But those were fun,
Yeah, I like
like
trying. I like it. I loved trying implants on with my patients because this was my process. So they'll show me a picture, right? I want to see a picture. Show me what you like. And then I'll be able to be like, all right, to make you go from that to that, you're going to be from a 300 to like a 450. Let's start with the 450. Put it on. We usually you wear like a sports bra, and we have the side like the implant that Jenny was just showing. That implant, we put them right in front of your breast tissue, and you can see, and then you put on a shirt, a tight fitting shirt, so you can see kind of what the projection would be, what the volume would look like. And usually I like to start with the highest because they'll be like, oh no, this is too big. No, no, this is too big. And then
start with the no.
yeah, and then I can bring them back like, okay, let's go to the next size down, and then the next size down. And then they're like, okay, no, this is it. This is it. Or no, let me see that bigger one. And then they start comparing like, okay, maybe I like the 400, maybe I like the 450. And what I like to tell my girls is give us with my surgery, even now when we go to when I go to their consultations with them, um let's give them the range of like, okay, she likes this look. We tried on implants. The implant she liked was a 400, but this, let's give the surgeon that freedom of, you fit you, once you're in there, decide which implant size would fit best. I know there's a lot of like um trust that has to go into that, and some women are not, are a little more control. They want to know exactly what implant size is going to go in. But I feel like you're picking a surgeon, and the surgeon is an artist, right? And they're looking at, you're looking at their before and after gallery, and you're liking their art. So when you're going into your consultation and into surgery, let them be artists. Give them a range, like, kind of like when you're asking for a painting, like, I want, I have like an idea and like these colors, but then they create the art. And I feel like when you're in surgery, like, you can give them like, I want this look, I want to look like this with maybe this size, but then ultimately let the artist create the art and figure out which implant looks the best on you, with your frame, with everything. If you're doing a breast lift, what it's going to look like after the breast lift, so that you can get the result that you're really looking for. These surgeons do it day in, day out. They do it every day. So trust them.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that 100%. And it's hard for some people because they'll come out of their consults and be like, well, they gave me a range. What should I pick? And I'm like, they didn't tell you? So some surgeons will leave it up to them and send them home after their consult was like, here's your range, here's what we're thinking. And then that's when I see those people get into the forums like, I don't know what to pick. And I like how you said between 400 and 450. Like a small range like that isn't going to provide that much of a difference. You're not going to see a difference between a 400 and a 450. So I think for those ladies, it's like they they leave the consult with like, oh no, but it's like, but not really,
But if
like,
you
but if you
really,
knew.
if you knew like how much 50 cc's, like if you put 50 cc's in your hand and then you imagine that volume spread around that whole implant, like it's such
The
a
drop in a
small,
bucket.
yeah, it's such a small difference. What I want the surgeon to do is look and see like, okay, this, maybe the 400, the 450 is too big for your frame, it's giving you too much side boob, or maybe the 400 fits perfect. And that's where you really want to trust your surgeon and go in trusting that they're going to give you the result that you're looking for. And which is why finding the right surgeon and picking the surgeon that you love their art is the number one step in your plastic surgery journey.
Hmm. I agree.
All right, Jenny, let's finish this episode up. And if my girls want to come join your community, how can they find you?
It's a Facebook group, so you can just go to groups and type in the Hive, and it should pop up, and just click to join, and I will approve you. And it's for females only, kind of like Bus Mob was or is. But this is more of a place where it's not affiliated with any plastic surgery group. You can talk about any surgeon that you want, and we can also touch on wellness, whether that's inner wellness, outer wellness, whatever is your cup of tea.
Wonderful. I love that. Thank you so much for being on this show. This was so much fun.
Yes, thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. I hope to see you again soon, and we can talk about so many, y'all. There's so many things to talk about once you start talking about implants, different procedures, different techniques. That's why, I mean, we're here 4 years in, and I still have things to talk about on the show. So I hope to bring you back again and we can talk about so many other things. And with that, you guys, I'll see y'all next week.
So, if you're listening to this episode and you're listening to the Big Butts No Lies podcast, you might be on your surgery journey. And if you are, and you don't know what to do, you don't know where to start, you've come to the right place. I am so excited to do one-on-ones with you guys. I've realized as I do them more and more just how valuable they are to you, not only because you get my expert opinion, I get to guide you towards plastic surgeons that we know are going to do a good job and keep you safe. Besides all that, I get to talk to you about things that might not even be on your radar, things that you don't even know are possible. But since we get so in depth with our conversations and I really get to know what your dreams are and what you're really looking for with your body, I can tailor my recommendations to the surgeons that I know can help you achieve that. And taking the guesswork out of who to go to is invaluable. So schedule your one-on-one phone call with me. You can go to my website, go to the quick links, submit your information, let me get to know you, let me see how can we help you. You can get your own team. You guys, I have been working so hard behind the scenes to come up with a perfect way for you to have your plastic surgery and not only come out with beautiful incisions, but also feeling beautiful on the inside. So book your call with me and take the guesswork out of your plastic surgery journey.
And don't forget, new episodes every Monday. I'll see you then.